The role of lobbyists and special interest groups in the legislative branch.
So, who is a lobbyist, and what do lobbyists do? A lobbyist is somebody who is hired to convince legislators to benefit the lobbyist's employer by voting a specific way.
What are special interest groups? A special interest group is just a collection of lobbyists. The group persuades legislators to vote in their favor. A special interest group uses the same tactics as the lobbyists.
State legislative term limits. A term is the number of years that a representative may serve in our government. So, a term limit is a law that puts a limit upon the time that a representative can serve in a row in the exact same position. As of 1992, state term limits were put into place in Ohio. This meant that many of the representatives in our state legislative branch had served all of their time in their positions. In 2000, these term limits really started to affect our state government. Many experienced representatives stepped out of office, and many inexperienced representatives stepped into office.
These term limits had a huge effect upon lobbying in the state legislative branch. How do lobbyists / special interest groups influence laws passed by the state legislative branch? How do these term limits affect the decisions made by our government? These term limits affect the decision made by our government because the newer, less experienced representatives were more open to listen to outside opinions. They did not already have hardened opinions. So lobbyists were able to have a greater impact upon our state government. I talked to an intern in Representative Curtin's office, and he said that since the term limits have been put into place, more lobbyists have come to meet with legislators. The lobbyists often come to meet with legislators to present their argument.
So, how do lobbyists and special interest groups influence laws passed by the federal legislative branch? Lobbyists affect decisions made by the federal government by frequently meeting with the legislators. Their goal is to have an impact upon the decisions made by Congress. Lobbyists also condense and summarize information about the current issues discussed by our federal government.
Statistics. In 2011, there were 12,719 lobbyists working to influence our federal government. This chart shows the total amount of money spent to lobby as well as the total number of registered lobbyists from the year 1998 to the beginning of this year. This picture shows that for every member in Congress, there are 23 lobbyists. This statistic amazed me and just shows how prevalent lobbyists are in our government.
The main method of a lobbyist is to contact a legislator who will have a direct impact upon the outcome of a decision. This is done either by letter, phone, email, or by meeting in person. Another method used by lobbyists is to advertise in favor of their side of a decision. This may be done either by billboard, the radio, TV, etc.
Pros and cons of lobbying. Pros of lobbying. There are two main positive factors of lobbying. The first positive factor of lobbying is that lobbyists enable the people to more directly have an effect upon decisions made by the government. The second factor is that lobbyists make sure that their side of an argument is represented.
Cons of lobbying. There are three main negative factors of lobbying. First of all, lobbyists do not promote the common good. They affect decisions to benefit themselves and their employers. Next, lobbyists swing elections, once again to benefit their own side. Third of all, lobbyists often prevent the representatives in our government from making the fairest, most intelligent decisions. They present biased information in the hope to cloud the truth.
Examples of decisions that lobbyists have affected. First one, regulations against smoking. President Clinton tried to pass some laws in the late 1990s to eliminate deaths caused by smoking. However, Corporation Philip Morris, the leading tobacco company at the time, spent millions of dollars lobbying against the regulations. Many of the regulations were never passed. This is interesting because those regulations would have promoted the common good and saved many lives, yet a company interested in benefiting themselves financially prevented these regulations from passing. The second example is gun control. The NRA is spending more and more money to lobby against further laws and restrictions limiting gun ownership. During the first quarter of this year, the NRA spent about $800,000 on lobbying.
The third example is teacher unions. In the first 3 months of 2013, the teachers' union spent $380,941 to lobby. The goal is to make an impact upon decisions that affect the teachers and students in the school systems. We found this quote from Seattle Times very interesting. It itemizes the spending of the WEA. The WEA's January-March 2013 total included some $119,000 in salaries for a half dozen lobbyists, $175,000 on radio advertisements meant to affect pending legislation, and $13,000 to bring teachers to the Capitol to meet with lawmakers. The union also spent $10,000 to doorbell homes in the districts of state senators. The end.